So, a quick blunt observation I just want to start with that are DCCs today creating future enterprise value, or are they optimizing for what they used to do in the past and in the meantime also consuming capital? I think that's a opening statement. And what we believe is that DCCs were established for scale and efficiency and that they do it very, very well. But in today's world where AI is all over, talent scarcity is there, there's pressure for business growth, macroeconomic environment is unstable. So given all this, we see the conversation shifting from service providers, from shared services to GBS to what we at HFS call as generative business services. Can we get the slide on, please? Okay, so the leaders in this panel, they've already started navigating the journey from shared services to GBS to generative enterprises. And today we'll speak to them to really understand what does it take to achieve this state that we are talking about. So my first question is is to Soumitra and Sri. Maybe Soumitra, you want to start first. What's the most significant force that is pushing enterprises to fundamentally rethink the role of the GCC today?
Okay, thank you, Ashish, for having me here. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Soumitra. To answer your question, actually, I think according to me, there is one single force which is fundamentally changing the landscape and the perception with which enterprises are reimagining GCCs, right? And that force is nothing but the rapid and the non-linear growth and proliferation of AI and agentic AI ecosystems so intricately in our lives. Let me step back and explain that for a minute, right? So traditionally, GCCs were set up as a cost arbitrage unit. I think those days are absolutely gone. It is no more about cost arbitrage. That isn't given. That is table stakes. That is why the existence is there, right? But GCCs are now going to be measured in through a different lens altogether. They need to be no more cost arbitrage here, but an innovation arbitrage. So that's the lens with which headquarters and enterprises are looking at GCCs. They will not be measured by the headcount growth or the number of processes that we churn out every single day or the volume of code that is being shipped. Those days are gone. Okay, now headquarters are expecting GCCs to operate very different, radically different. Are GCCs able to leverage Gen AI and reimagine, optimize the existing workflows which are there in the system? Are GCCs and the leadership share from India, are they able to make a tangible impact to the bottom line, the top line, or the CX of a company? I think that's the paradigm shift which is happening, and that is the fundamental force with which the lens is changing for GCCs.
Thank you, Achyuta. I think I'll just make a statement first that we are in 2028 because it's talking about 2028, and I always believe what we ask for and what we visualize for will come true. So let's manifest that. All GCCs are already globally integrated, operating in it with ownership of product platform and the enterprise outcome. Means we're already arrived there. So let's start and think back what have we made that to reach there, or what you just asked, right? For us, maybe some updates. Completely agree with Soumitra. That is first thing which is making the enterprise to look toward this, or where I said we have already arrived, is speed of technology, the change of speed or where it is running. I think the second most is how is it is scarce of the talent and the niche talents, and I know it is there. So, but it isn't available across the GCCs, may not. When I'm saying different location, because may not be a soft corner of only for India. I'm talking about all others location also. Though. So we are at the edge. So that's one thing which will be as a positive side for us or a winner thing. And another opportunity is about the geopolitical changes or the macroeconomic changes what we are going through. That will definitely will push, and with the amount of government aids we are getting, and that will really ensure the enterprise to look towards India and look at us take the advantage of those, and be this the gold rush they will also make the gold rush. It's not only India making it, right? Enterprises also will make it towards. That is another optics. And then maybe then final optics, which I would now want to mention about is each organization is at a different maturity level, right? And what is it, nano or a mid-market or a well-established or even brownfield GCCs? I think it's about, see, have already arrived there. If some of the organization have not arrived at the generative enterprise, I think they will take that step and learnings from them and make it happen. So these are the various, I think, important points they will consider to look at GCCs in a different spot and be their integrated whole.
Thanks. Moving on to the next one, and this is more about the transformation that we're talking about from shared services to global business services and then generative enterprises. What was fundamentally changed for GCCs to become generative AI-led? And this question, maybe Ashish, you want to start with?
Oh, well, thank you for that question, and thank you for inviting me back here. The way I think about this is GCC IT services. At the end of the day, we are a business. At the end of the day, we are a business, and we need to we need to be relevant to the enterprise. And as things are changing, previously digital, now AI, I think the one fundamental thing that will be crucial is the leadership that is available within the GCCs and the relationship and the culture and the influence that the leadership can have back with the stakeholders in the headquarters. In my experience and having been there in a couple of GCCs already, I've seen GCCs build very well, and then leadership changes and everything's gone. So I think the leadership is critical, and the areas of focus for the leadership. One, be very clear about what capabilities we want to build in the GCCs. I don't think we can live in a world where we say FGCC will do everything. The market is very competitive. IT services providers are also coming up with a lot of innovation. It cannot be ignored. We have to be able to work with the ecosystem. So it's crucial for us to be very, very focused on what capabilities you want to build. Leaders will have to take a risk and say, here's what I'm going to build here. And you have to take a lead on declaring that. The second is make sure we have a commercially relevant model. We cannot continue the headcount budget, 10%, compensation increases year on year. As you go bigger, they become they hit on somebody else's budget. So we have to be able to be commercially relevant. And you cannot lose sight of speed, quality, and cost at any point in time. I know people say table stakes and you wash it away. It will not do that. And the third, of course, is AI. And how do you take AI and embed it within our processes, whether we do it for ourselves and make our work better, or we do it for our customers? I look at it in two ways. And where you apply it, again, your choice, but start with something and make sure your enterprise is ready to take it on.
Thank you, Ashish. Taking risks, focusing on outcomes in AI, and we'll come on AI later on. Rajesh, you want to add on?
Yeah, good afternoon. Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for having me here. I think kind of maybe add one point to what Sri and Soumitra mentioned, right? The reason the GCC ecosystems or the headquarters are looking at GCC ecosystem is, over the last 5+ or 6+ years, of course, if you see the journey, the way the startup ecosystem has come up pretty strongly almost in all domains. The way the overall talent ecosystem, not just from a technology or digital talent, the domain talent and the functional talent has developed over the period of time. That's fundamentally making a huge difference in terms of the speed to market, in terms of how things are, happening in the headquarters. Something that used to take 18 months, 24 months for proof of concept and the minimum viable product, then all of a sudden that cycle, because of first the domain technology skills, and second thing, from a generative AI point of view, the capacity is no more a constraint. It is that speed is letting the headquarters drive a lot of those innovations and new product ideas, and that is making them more competitive in the market. So GCC comes into the picture from that. Just wanted to add on top of that. Second thing is, from an overall outcome point of view, if you see, it is not just about the cost advantage. It is not just about, the table stakes which were already there in the system. I feel even a value of a GCC has become a table stake. because nobody just wants to set up a cost and over the period of time just continue to let it run like it was. The differentiator, which is going to be driving from a generative GCC point of view, is the value multiplication. And again, that goes back to how quickly you can help the top line and the bottom line from a growth influence point of view. Second thing is how can you help the overall innovation life cycle for a product to get faster in the market, because it is all about who gets into the market first and who captures the market. The others are followers. There is only one leader. That is again how the generative GCCs are expected to drive those kind of value for the organization.
Sure.
And again, common denominator remains the same. We have startup ecosystem, we have the digital skills, we have the technology and the process skills. All of them are coming together at the right time with a lot of good policy frameworks which are coming in. And now the capacity is not just constrained to Bangalore, Hyderabad, or some of the usual GCC cities. Where Tier 2 coming in, Tier 3 also developing, and the policy framework across all the government organizations. That ease of doing business, everything is coming together and making a very perfect kind of a storm in a positive way.
Yeah.
That generative GCCs are here to unlock the next generation of values for the headquarters.
Sure. Kamal, well, quickly.
Yeah, so hi, and thank you for having me here. My name is Kamal Sharma. I'm part of Career Corporation. I'm leading Global Digital Capability Center in India, Mexico, and China. So our journey started about 6 years back. Very interesting journey. So from the day one, one thing where we were found ourselves into be a right position was that when the GCC era was taking up a very strong waves in India. And we knew that one thing what we have to do right is defining the purpose of the GCC. Why exactly you are setting up the GCC? From there, the journey started. We also noticed in this entire spectrum, uh, AI high and the data entire ecosystem evolved, which was disrupting a lot of things. The first thing what we observed was we cannot run the GCC initiatives, programs, projects the way we used to develop the traditional IT software projects, right? It's very, very different when it comes to your data products or your AI initiatives. And I think that's where most of the research firms are predicting that, okay, the reason why 70%, 80% of AI projects will fail to prove their value by 27 is because we are developing them as a traditional software programs, which should not be the case. And that's where in 24 we changed the entire approach, and that's what we are seeing in the industry now. All the progressive GCCs they are taking the center stage. Uh, Everything they do, co-ideation, co-innovation, and co-rewriting the value and impact matrix. So the challenge what I see is, or what we went through is the strategy is defined in headquarters, the execution happens in GCC, and the business outcomes are measured by business. All these three are different, stakeholders and not connected anywhere. This is you never get opportunity to go and like sell along with the sales team. So how do you expect them to deliver impact and value? What metrics you are writing, this is doesn't even understand. So that catalyst role became very important, which is of GCC leader. So there is a huge shift which I see when I see the JDs these days. People expect the GCC leaders to be catalyst, not just in your people management, but also with the technology. So that shift is happening, and the entire ecosystem is being reimagined. Now, to the point, the headcount growth, my friends mentioned, this is only. But if I go to my CDO and I think I want to hire 1,000 people next year, then he asked me, then why are they asking the budget for AI? So you want people also, you want AI also, you want automation also. So you need to be very crystal clear about, as a GCC, which are their crystal balls, where are you going to keep the focus, which at any cost you're not being, getting them dropped. So I think that's a shift we are seeing. And in 27 and 28, it will be like execution time. What efforts being are put right now, we will start seeing those results.
Actually, I just request all of you to keep cognizant of time, 1 minute response was.
Want to add up to your point on the shift in the mandate change, right?
Yeah.
I think it starts at the top. GCC heads should not just be running the centers and hiring people.
No.
They should be accountable for business outcomes. So the mandate has to dramatically change that a GCC head should have a very clear business mandate, which is impacting the top line, bottom line of the CX at the company. That's the one.
Thank you. So we try to figure out some of the parameters that define what, according to us, is a generative enterprise. Now, the first one is, how does the enterprise create data as an asset? And I think this question is for Asha and Sri, and maybe Asha, you can start first. The role of data is shifting from just reporting to value creation, right? So how does a GCC monetize or create value from data?
Yeah, well, thank you for the question. I'm Asha. I'm the Chief Digital Officer at G Healthcare. I am not in a GCC model, but end of the day, these are just different models of how operations happens, like IT services and the other things we spoke about. End of the day, I think the goal is really to deliver outcomes for our enterprise or our customers using technology, and these are different ways. So coming back to your question, I think, I just want to make a point which I thought didn't get made. See, we talked about a lot of disruptions, but one of the disruption that is happening is a lot of the business folks can actually now do a lot of what technology was doing. So it's very important that as technologists, we are also developing skills which are more business aligned, like strategy, influence, about being the winners and losers and all of that in the prior conversation. Come to the data, point over here. See, end of the day, your AI is going to be as good as your data, and companies probably which have invested in the last years to focus on data will have better use of AI, because AI is best serving outcomes when it can be deployed horizontally in an organization. There can be a lot of things agents can do vertically, but for example, if you want to do, a software transformation in your company, there are so many different pieces that need to come together, which if you do not have the underlying data structures, fabrics that are well connected, it's only going to add more complexity. You will have thousands of AI agents, then you need AI agents that connect AI agents. We did some of those experiments where we looked at the complexity of the problem. So it's very important to understand which problems require fixed complex data structures, and what is really the connectivity and the way that your data is really structured from a fabric to really get to true business outcomes. Obviously, the process layer is also very important, because otherwise you're not going to be able to solve a specific problem differently. You can definitely help, you can support all of that, and if you cannot do that, then long term revenue or long term uh, growth coming out of these agents are going to be very difficult. So and it's just not, like for example, healthcare has different types of data, right? So there is enterprise data, which is what most of IT manages. There is engineering data, which the gentleman before talked about, right, coming from our healthcare systems, medical devices. So how does this all come together to create outcomes for hospitals? I think those kind of things are going to be more driven by data than just in the AI there.
Thank you. Yeah. Please.
Yeah, I straight away go to example, because one example I did really in the previous organization, paying financial services, data is prime, right? Having sitting on like say 20-25 years of credit card behaviors of the customers was a gold mine. So why this example came up here is because one, yes, we keep on asking for seat for table. I did not think in that, but rather I said, okay, how much I can do business or on or monetize it and get the income out of it, right? So that's the thought process I had, and when I spoke to the credit card head and on business client head and said, with this data, can't we create analysis even for our customers or the clients, rather customers, because end customers is users, and why can't we do that? So that was one of the thought process which introduced him to at least create that entire data science team here and start on that POC. So data itself is not only at enterprise level, even for the GCC level, it's a gold mine. We should really cash on it. And most of the enterprises don't want to get into and clean it up because it's a very messy job to do. Why can't we do it, right? And I think in this way, like a businessman and do a business outcome with it. So that's one of the examples I can put.
So then it's
I think that's a right.
cut sales and revenues and also definitely is.
And be conscious.
Different segment, isn't it?
I have to just add maybe one more thing on top. The data is the new gold. I'm not making a new statement, but everyone knows about it. So one example that I would give is, of course, and I'll not name names here, but data science team was trying to solve a very complex problem in terms of supply chain, inventory, customer demand, availability, and everything. And while they were turning out this data, nobody asked them to create something new, but guess what? They ended up finding great deal of insight in terms of how the organization's partnerships with the third parties or the suppliers was running. What are the new avenues in terms of how the data can be used to create new products, new offerings, and maybe cut down the tail of the business, which was taking more resources but not giving that kind of a revenue. And that report directly going up to CFO and CEO and then telling them, yeah, this is a problem solution that we were driving. This is an additional insight. Guess what? That actually opened up avenues for certain big strategic conversation leading up to either the cost cutting or additional top line impact. So the GCC's role is not just about solving the problem for which they are mandated. Try and go more and look at the wider horizon and see what kind of additional insight from a data point of view can be. If you look at the data in the right way, data actually tells you a lot of stories. A lot of data, AIs, data science leaders are here. GCC's role is not just to solve a problem, to look beyond where nobody else is looking. I think that is the generative GCC, and that's a value or a thing that GCC should be looking for.
Thank you. I'll also speed up. Let me ask one of you one question that's left. So, Ashish, the next one is for you on AI, right? What is central to a generative enterprise is AI. Could you share some examples on how do GCC leaders decide, what to experiment, what to scale, where to partner with the ecosystem?
Well, I can tell you from our experience, and I'll put it in two buckets. So one is where there is a clear enterprise mandate and you want to work on something. So we, for example, are working on building out the AI platform for the company. So here we've got to do it. We've got the engineers, we know the parameters, and we can start working on it. The other one is where you don't have a mandate, but you want to push something and you want to innovate. And so we set up our own innovation hub, and we broke our initiatives between what we need to do for ourselves, what we need to do for our business functions, and what we could do for the industry. We're very young right now. We're a little less than 3 years old, but we are focused on what we can do for ourselves and what we can do for our business functions. An example of this is that we have, a lot of software companies are also putting AI into their software and making things better. So, recruiting, BB for everyone, Oracle HCM is putting AI in, and you can do a lot of resume parsing and everything else. We don't need to do anything on that. But we built our own engine, which says, if I look at a resume, is there an exaggeration of skills within that resume? If yes, here are the questions to ask. And if when you ask these questions, here's what your expected answers should be. This is something that we just built and that enriches our recruiting process. Right? So we have examples like that where we are pushing a lot of innovation for ourselves and for the company. The other category is build versus buy. Imaging, MRI scans, CT scans, there's a lot of solutions outside. There are a lot of very good small vendors here in India who have built great solutions. That is one of the areas where we're doing both a build and a buy. We can buy some solutions from people, but the amount of data we sit on, so I don't know if I introduced the company, but we are a hospital payer, a payer and a provider back in the US. And the amount of data we have in our systems is probably more than the NHS has about its population. Our doctors want us to train the models on our data. We will believe that much more. So we are building our own models as well. And so we are in the pilot phase to see how these imaging models work. And we've done that for brain tumors. We can look at something on the skin and tell you what is happening. Sure. So those are things that we're building, and we're deciding between build and buy. And there are others where clearly a buy makes sense. We have partnered with another company called Bridge, and we have the largest ambient AI implementation in the US for doctors. I don't know, we've started seeing that in India, where you go to a hospital and doctor spends 40 minutes and type in something and 5 minutes looking at you. That's dominantly what the doctors do in the US, and they hate it. So they want to be able to talk to the patient. So now with ambient AI, they can just talk to the patient and all the notes get done, gets sent to the pharmacy, and everything just happens. Doctors are loving it, right? And clearly, we don't need to build it. We can buy some of those.
Thank you. Moving on to talent, Asha, and this is for you. In this generative enterprises, what are the skill sets you believe or the talent you believe that are very hard to get at the same time very crucial?
Yeah, I think it's getting to be more interdisciplinary at the thing that middle to the top levels. And I obviously a lot of people who can really, what we are seeing in our organization is people who can do coding well can actually use AI and doing coding a lot better rather than newbies coming in and then trying to use a lot of these tools to do coding. So it's different at the levels. Since we are running short of time, I would say that at a senior level, the skills that are needed are more going to be around how can you digitally transform enterprises, which is, is a little bit more around how do you get skills that were probably thought of as purely on the business side. I kind of talked about it. And when it comes to more about the technology skills, I think it really needs hardcore engineering skills on top of which then you can do a lot more coding and all of that wrappers. I think generalists will be the people or the talent. I think that you'll be in most trouble at every level in the organization.
Thank you. Moving on to the ecosystem part, right? It's not only the parent organization that we are addressing at the GCC level, and you have been doing this for a long time. But I think startups, academia, government, state, national, whatever, service providers, technology vendors based out of your locations, they're all an ecosystem that you are able to orchestrate, and that's one of the journeys that we are talking about from a generative enterprise. So, maybe someone want to take this and talk a little bit about. What it means for GCCs to act as ecosystem orchestrators, and just keep yourself to about a minute or so. We have 3 more questions to go.
And so I used to be curious. So yes, personal experience, if I share, I think this entire ecosystem was one of the winning propositions, right? Helped us to scale fast. Our first AI platform back in 25, which we launched from India, was end-to-end delivered in partnership with the ecosystem. So the startup brings to us the deep core subject matter expertise. The partners ecosystem, they help us to bring the industrial knowledge as well as the scale what we need. And then whenever we are expanding from a geography perspective, or there are incentive programs and stuff, that's where the government comes to the picture. The beautiful part here is the tightly integrated the ecosystem what we have got in India, which is helping us as GCC to scale and deliver. Because when you want to become a generative enterprise, right, you need to have the attribute of scale. And it's not about people; it's also about what you are delivering, right? Sure. So that's how the ecosystem come together and with us.
Thank you. Rajesh, moving to you. Cost and productivity were all metrics for a generative enterprise. What are the metrics that you're looking for? Quick.
Yeah, I think it's I may have spoken in the previous response. It's all about the impact on the top line. So when we say top line, how quickly, what kind of difference we are making in the top line or the bottom line, eventually coming down from a cost point of view, and the go to speed. When you say go to speed, how quickly your innovation engine is turning the new pipeline. And it is not just about turning the POC to and leave it to the hands of destiny and divine powers to go take it forward. It's all about how can you continue to be a catalyst to take it from point A to point B, including creating a mechanism through which the adoption can be done. Because we have seen POCs are fine, but adoption is a problem, of course. So that is one of the metrics. How much you turned out from a POC is one part, but how many you got to the production at scale? And third, how much you could could create an ecosystem to adopt also. And third thing, from a Gen AI point of view, generative GCC, the learning velocity of the organization needs to be very strong.
Yeah.
It's not just about technology, because by the time you learn technology is going to be obsolete or AI will start to do some of that job. It's the learning velocity of the domain, cross-functional, how you can predict what needs to happen and then create that rather than somebody telling you to create, because you could be very late by that time. So these 3 top line parameters, which are, there are many others, but if you have to measure at a strategic level, these 3 parameters in my playbook.
Thank you. I'm combining the last 2 questions together. What challenges have you faced in your journey so far? And what does the future look like for you? And maybe some of you can chime in.
I think to build or in work with brown with feed as well as a green seed, right? the single most, and which will also prevent even whatever we say is the cultural resistance or the leadership preparedness here and in HQ. Both, right? Why mention this as a primary most stress? Because I've seen right in the recent one that I thought, okay, everybody is well prepared and they knew that, why the GCC is built and they have to go. But I still saw siloed understanding and different understanding by the leadership, by different business units. So us as GCC leaders or, mover is, trying to ensure that I bridge the gap because we always seen as a neutral person, right? Being in India and leading the organization because we are responsible for the people here as well as make the relationship and stakeholder management with the HQ team. So I see that cultural adaptiveness is what one thing we will need to continue to mold and keep doing, continuously bridging the gap.
Sure, so much.
I think from a challenges standpoint, the most common that many of us would see is we ask for innovation solutions to be done from the GCC. We do POCs, but it's very, very hard to scale up to product. I think it's very important as GCC leaders to think that while we ask for budget for innovation, it's important to have a very good scalable structure and a process in place so that once you have your POCs there, alive and kicking, it's time to monetize this. And the only way to monetize is by scaling up and cloud.
To pick anyone else, last our time is up, but
So maybe I just say the same thing in a couple of others would have said that it's all about the sponsorship. No matter what, I think I'll not be talking about 1800 plus GCCs which are existing, but majority would agree and resonate. It's all about you need to continue to prove your value in front of your headquarter always to see what's the value of a GCC coming in. We lately, for the last few years, we are seeing that kind of a trend. You need to produce your MBRs, QBRs, and see what's the value. And the moment the sponsorship changes, you need to start building that bonds and sponsorship challenges because it's all about TFO perspective or CIO perspective or a CEO perspective where the GCC reports into. GCC has to continue to prove itself. It's moving forward in the right direction, but that continues to be a challenge in terms of prove that you actually are a value partner or an innovation partner. Is just because you say that it's not going to be. And that perception, what is leading to that is you are a GCC. The GCC, the organization which has crossed through the borders, Achyuta, is the one who are actually saying the India office is another location of the headquarters.
Yep.
That notion has killed in some organizations, but for some it is just an India location. That distinction is killing some of them. That continues to be a testing path. It's like Agni Pariksha Sita ji on this, right?
well, I agree.
So the universities have more than 4 to 5 sponsorships. Even though when the leadership changes there, and it should not impact. And what we're trying to do because it has to have a long-term goal to deliver, right?
Well, leaders go with it.
We will also find out alone.
It's a journey, right? All of us are in the journey. And I think that's what I want to conclude by saying that efficiency and scale are table stakes, but they'll always matter, but they will no longer differentiate. Differentiation is what we were talking about from a generative perspective, AI centric. And this is what I think every GCC would have to take this journey out to evolve further. Thank you for your insights, all of you. I look forward to the next class.